live demonstrations. We'll go over everything we have. If you have any questions, just raise your hand. We'll try to answer to the best of our ability. Yes, sir.
Hey, so there be a handout so that we have something that we can review on later?
We did have, we didn't know there was going to be this many people, so the handouts we were going to print, we did not print because we thought we were going to be giving them to employers, directors, so we did not. If you want a handout after the class, we'll get one for you. You can check it out, because we got the full-on charter, project scope, so we can give you a copy of that.
That'd be awesome.
All right. All right, so I'll get into it. These are the team members and the roles, a little bit of who we are, what we did in this project. We have Jacob Bales, the project manager, sitting over here. We have Edward Ayala, which is sitting over there. Johanna Alba, she was U.S. Rubberduction, she's sitting right here. Donnie Gibson, which was social engineering tactics, Donnie's right there. Raymond Francis, Raspberry Pi, electronics and Cali Linux. Myself, Cali Linux, and David Franco, social engineering. A little bit about what happened is, obviously we started off the quarter, came to the class, Mr. Ali presented us with a couple projects. There was 3 of them to start off. There was 2 that wound up being the only 2 projects that we could choose from. We chose the penetration testing, and the class that's going to present later tonight chose the server build. With that, that's what we chose. It fitted our group. We formed together, created what we needed, and we started to implement and work on the project per the specifications that we were presented with Mr. Ali and Client X. So without further ado, I'd like to have Mr. Raymond come up.
Hey everyone. So first let's just go over a little bit of the project scope. Project scope, as you see, is long. I'm going to shorten it down a little bit. Really, what the project scope entailed was penetration testing at all sites for external and internal network. We also decided that we were going to try some penetration testing on the physical security of the sites as well. These things included anything from dropping an implant device to gaining unauthorized access any way that we could. The project scope is long. We'll leave it up here for a few seconds if anyone wants to take a look through it, and then we'll move on to the next slide.
Basically what we did with this project scope was we took it from our charter that we presented to our employer being Client X. This was basically the outline of everything that was to be included in our project. So if you guys don't want to read through that, it is pretty lengthy. He summed it up pretty quick. We'll go to the next slide.
Alright, so here was our project timeline. What we decided we wanted to do is we wanted to hit this up in 3 different sections. Our 3 sections that we decided to do was we were going to do our site reconnaissance, we were going to do any of our physical penetration testing, and then we were going to do any of our electronic network, which includes external and internal network penetration. As you can see, the project start date was April 1st. We went right into reconnaissance right after that. Reconnaissance was the biggest thing for us that we really needed to do. We needed to find out what their vulnerabilities were and how we could exploit that. A few weeks later, we started with the physical assessments and decided how we were actually going to try and attack them physically. And then we were always working on any type of network vulnerabilities that we can find and exploit. So site reconnaissance. Site reconnaissance was the most important thing for us. We were there for hours on end, looking for any vulnerability that we could find for them. Our biggest vulnerability that we found was we saw many vendors going in and out without any type of checking of any IDs or anything like that. That was one of our biggest exploits, one of our biggest vulnerabilities that we found with them. Another thing was we did a lot of on-site work to try and hack their Wi-Fi password as well. That involves hours on end of sitting at your laptop, monitoring the network, and making sure that you find the correct SSID and the correct BSSID so you can actually send de-authentication packets and actually kick these guys off the network so we can pull the key from them when they try and re-authenticate the next time.
So you guys are using Wireshark for monitoring that stuff?
Yes, we'll get into that a little later. We were using Kali Linux, which has a lot of built-in tools for penetration testing. Wireshark is actually one of the built-in tools that was used. Next slide, please. Next slide again.
Okay, so this is a little bit of the tools and methods we used in implementing this project for Client X. Social engineering was one of them. You guys all know, if you've ever done any research on hacking, social engineering is number 1. You walk up to somebody, start to get to know them, start asking them questions, feel friendly, go to Starbucks, you overhear things, That's social engineering. The two people, like I said earlier, Donnie and Mr. David over here, were the two that did that very well. We're going to go into that here in a little bit. The Cisco device implant, which was done by Raymond, is sitting up here. We'll show you that in a little bit. Raspberry Pi, Wi-Fi Pineapple, Kali Linux, Windows 7 with TeamViewer, which is actually sitting right over here on the left. If you guys want to take a look at that and see any live video, and the USB Rubberduction. So social engineering, as I just stated a minute ago, very basic. Walk up to somebody, get to know them. It's as simple as going up to your buddy and saying, hey, what's your Wi-Fi at your house? It's social engineering. Whether he knows you or not, it's very simple. You just got to make that person feel comfortable, or sit and overhear somebody, or exploit something about a person or the building itself with using your ability to talk. Go ahead and actually go back. In this situation, we used social engineering with a fake work order. Between David and Donnie, they both spent numerous hours on all sites, in and out, watching everything, trying to reconnaissance the area, started to see a lot of vendors coming in and out, decided, hey, let's go ahead and create a fake work order to get inside of the actual building server room, which is actually what we used to plant this device in their server room. Fortunately, it was actually found 5 days later. But point is that it was planted in their server room on their network, which is something that technically shouldn't be done if you have proper policies. We got a little video. Turn your head sideways like this.
Control.
Technical difficulties. This video really quick was him getting access to the building and walking into their office. Basically, you see paperwork right there. Those are applications for memberships. If you guys have ever filled out a membership before, you know on an application you got date of birth, address, name, possibly social. How are you going to pay for it? Most likely they want you to have a credit card or a bank account. Those documentations that were sitting out on those desks had all of that, which showed you that PCI DSS, they were not compliant because you're not supposed to have that type of paperwork out. Again, that was the Social Engineering Act. I'm going to go ahead and leave the floor to Raymond, who's going to go over the Cisco device implant.
All right, so the two devices that we wanted to implant on the network was a Pineapple Wi-Fi and a Raspberry Pi. If any of you guys have ever seen them, one's the size of a credit card, the other one's about the size of a CD case. Unfortunately, as small as they are, they stand out a lot. So what we decided we wanted to do is we wanted to try and hide the device inside of a common network device, so that way if someone saw it on the network, they actually wouldn't be able to tell that there was another device in there. So what we did was we implanted both. We had to play with the electronics a little bit. We had to figure out how we could use the power supply to work with everything with the two devices that we had, especially seeing as how both of them took different voltage inputs. So I have a little video here that's going to explain it a little better for you guys. This is just how we set up the Cisco implant device so we could get it on, so we could drop it off on their network.
Okay, in order to implant two devices onto the network, we decided we were going to try and disguise a commonly used network device and implant it onto the facility. In order to make this work, we had to make changes to the power to make sure that we could make it run off of an actual power cable, like so. In order to do that, we had to test the power supply and find out what the voltage output was, and found that it was a 12-volt output. In order to run the two devices, we needed two voltage inputs of 5 volts and 9 volts. So in order to make this work, we had to buy a voltage regulator to make this work. The voltage regulator we ran off of the power supply, seen here. This is our voltage regulator, which has an adjustable voltage output anywhere between 5 volts to 9 volts. From there, we were able to configure those to the 5 volt and 9 volt, plug them into the power supplies of the Raspberry Pi here and the Pineapple Wi-Fi. From there, we were able to run a network cable, as seen here, through the device and out of the back so we could hide it a little better.
So here we're showing how all the power indicator lights light up.
So of course, this was all with the, company management, okay, and then this was to what? Test their, systems administrator to see on how much on the ball they were?
So
or-
basically, this is what it is that our job was to play spy. We were gonna get into the building without them knowing anything. So anybody, the only person that knew was their IT management. But from your technical employees, even their IT department technically wasn't supposed to know, even though there's a couple in this building. But we were supposed to come in, penetrate their system physically, internally, externally, network, electronics, anything we could do to exploit and find a hole, a gap somewhere. That in a policy, because if you guys are all going for security, you're supposed to protect, okay? So we're here to jump in and say, okay, we were able to gain access to this. If not anything, we produce a report stating this is everything we did, but you guys are solid. You obviously got policies in play. We couldn't gain access to anything. What we did with this, when we planted that, with the fake work order. Actually, where's Donnie at? Donnie, come up and talk about what you did.
Sure. That's easy. Alright, so the idea for the fake work order came about because, through conversations with the people that actually work at YMCA, I found out one of their old internet service providers. Sorry. Beep. Doing so, I just happened to know the company that was one of their ISPs and that they no longer had service with this company. So I created a fake work order with the company logo stating that I was there to pick up some old equipment. Upon showing this work order to the front desk, there was no problem getting access to the MDF, MPO, and planner device.
So in any case, what he's trying to say and highlight is, if somebody comes to your job right now and says, I need access to your server room, you're just gonna say, hey, go ahead with the fake work order. There's no verification, no passes, no sign-in. Maintenance guy came up, got him, took him to the server room, put a device on the network. If that was $1 million company that was doing transactions, credit card, bank statements, dealing with money, do you think their policy would have let you do that?
I would think you'd be wanting to get a hold of your CIO, your.
Exactly, so.
Exactly, it's a major vulnerability that was exploited. They need to have their policies in place for vendor sign-in forms, checking IDs, making sure that the scheduled visits are on the calendar for the day, and we were able to exploit this because they don't have any of those policies in place. So this was our exploit. This was how we got it in.
Can I just ask real quick for all questions and comments to be held till after the presentation? Thank you.
All right, so the Raspberry Pi was one of the devices that we implanted. I'm just gonna go over this real quick. The Raspberry Pi is just and Ben is actually gonna pass this around for some people to check out. It's just it's a small computer with really light processing and memory on it. It's pretty much only able to run Linux on it. You can't run a Windows on it or anything like that. It comes with LAN ports, everything you need to have a fully functional computer that's about the size of a credit card. As you can see in this picture here, I actually took a comparison picture. This is actually my business card here. So this is how small it is. And it's got everything that you need to be able to hide a computer on the network. What we did was we installed Kali Linux on it, which comes with a lot of penetration tools, and we were able to remotely access that from outside of the network. I'm gonna have Jacob come up and explain the other device that was implanted into the Cisco device, and that is the Wi-Fi Pineapple.
So as Ben mentioned earlier, and Raymond, this Wi-Fi Pineapple was planted inside the Cisco device. This device actually has two radios in it, and the two radios can be used for two different things at the same time. Right now, it is displaying an SSID of AT&T Wi-Fi. If you have an AT&T device, it should automatically connect you to the Wi-Fi Pineapple. This will allow me to browse any of your traffic that you are doing on the internet through my device and out into the public internet, allowing me to filter any traffic that may be going through it. We're going to use it to, like I said, as an access point for people to connect to, for me to filter the traffic. as well as to jam people's Wi-Fi so that they would no longer have Wi-Fi access since client X mainly ran on Wi-Fi. Other than that, next slide please. So we also used Kali Linux. This is a powerful Linux distro used for penetration testing with hundreds of built-in tools. One of the main tools that we used was Aircraft. We did have a presentation for you guys, but it actually kind of fell through since the Wi-Fi is kind of finicky. So I'm sorry to say that, but yeah, there's no presentation on that. But we use that to crack the Wi-Fi. That we spent hours on it, monitoring all 3 sites in our car, out front of the place. 2 computers, 3 computers at the same time, just de-authenticating clients, which means kicking people off the network. So then, when they reestablish a connection, we capture that handshake, which contains the key to crack the password against the word list that we have. We also used, go back please. We also used X over SSH, which will give us a graphical user interface over the SSH protocol. And then MAC changer is also used to change your physical MAC address of your device so that you can impersonate a MAC address already connected to the network so that you can gain access to the network. Right here, I'd like to introduce you. Right.
All right, so since Ben already mentioned, our first device was found about 5 days after we implanted it. So we were kind of at a loss there. So what we decided to do was we were going to try and get a second device implant, but we were under the gun. We didn't have time, so we decided that we were just going to build a very basic Windows 7 machine, install TeamViewer on it, and drop it off to the site. Luckily, we had some project signups that we had to do for some of the associates, so we took advantage of that and was able to drop a device off during that time. Actually, this device is actually still on their network as of today. This here is actually a live feed of their security cameras right now at their facility. And we also wanted we can go the expert route. If you use Kali Linux, you're going the expert route. You are in the command line, running everything. But we also wanted to show that it's also easily done by a novice as well. This is actually just a simple TeamViewer session that's up right now. All we did was create a free account with TeamViewer, signed in with it, and was able to actually log on to the computer from anywhere that we wanted to. Next slide.
That's all of it. Just the ones
I
that.
can go into a live demo for you guys right now and just kind of show you some of the stuff that we found in regards to that. Joanna, are you sitting at the computer right now? You mind if I take a seat?
Yeah, go ahead. So any of you guys that are going to be signing up for your bachelor's program, it's kind of good to pay attention to this. You're going to learn a lot of this throughout your few quarters, 7, through your bachelor's program. Take notes, because a lot of this, if you get a project like this, is going to benefit you in the long run. And any of you guys that are curious about anything fun, check it out.
All right, so just kind of the demonstration. First thing that we did when we got on the network was run an IP config. Actually, we ran an IP config /all, so that way we can get all of the addresses that we saw. From there, we're able to find out what their actual internal network subnet is. And as you can see here, it is in the 10.12.2.0/24 subnet. What was funny though is that we ended up finding that their DNS server is actually on a different subnet. So that actually opens us up. That actually allows us to start scanning the network more. So we ended up running a scan on that network as well. And as a matter of fact, we ended up finding all their servers. And this, from what we understand, is held at the Sacramento site in the data center. And if I can pull up, this is actually the web interface for one of their Exchange servers right now. We also were able to exploit them by finding out just default usernames and passwords. We scanned the network, we found that this device was open to HTTP. We opened it up, popped in the default username and password, which was admin, and got access to the security cameras. From there, we were able to also find that there was a printer that they had on site as well. This is the printer setup as well. We were able to go into the job logs, see the scan logs, and now we have all the usernames of the people that were actually printing to that printer or scanning from that printer. So this just opens you up. You dig into it a little by little, and you keep penetrating as far as you can. What I decided to do was to just go a little bit deeper. Was I installed an evaluation copy of Nessus, and this is a vulnerability scanner. And what I did was I just decided, since I had some of their subnets, I decided I was going to scan those to see what kind of vulnerabilities they had. So I'm going to show you a couple scans that we did. Due to this, we were also able to find out what their external IP addresses were. Their external IPs are all their public-facing servers. We ran a simple DNS scan just to find out what kind of A records they have on the list. We found what their subnet was from that, and we decided that we were going to run a scan on their external network. After we ran the scan, we found that there was multiple vulnerabilities found in their external network as well. So this is one of their servers. This is actually their mail filter for their incoming mail. We actually ended up finding out that they actually have an open relay on this mail server. That's actually bad practice because spammers can come in and they can use this mail server as a relay for all their spam messages. So these are vulnerabilities that we found. We weren't necessarily able to exploit them, but they were found vulnerabilities that we are actually able to report to them so they can address. I'm going to go back. There was one other one that we found as well, and I'm sure most of you have heard of the OpenSSL Heartbleed. They have actually a couple of servers that are still actually vulnerable to that exploit. And if you actually go in, they have further details, and from here they actually pull the actual piece of memory that you're able to pull from that. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with OpenSSL Heartbleed, but what it does is it allows you to capture about 64 bits of server's memory, and this is exactly what it did. So all of these numbers and everything is what you're showing is from actual memory of the server's computer. From there, we also went ahead and did an internal scan as well. Let me just go back up here. We only scanned the site that we got the unit onto. We do have some of the other ones, but as you can see, we found multiple computers that have multiple vulnerabilities on them. I'll go over a couple of the most critical ones. Of course, now it is being said that if you have XP installed, it's critical that you get that taken care of. XP is no longer supported. They're no longer patching it anymore. You need to actually patch your computer to keep it secure. Windows XP doesn't offer it anymore. You should upgrade your computer. So there's another vulnerability that we found. And that's all I'm going to go into now. There's just so many more possibilities that you can go to if you have more time. You can find more exploits. You can get onto people's computers and you can exploit them further. Okay?
So like it says here, the USB Rubberduction, it's a simple USB Rubberducky keystroke injection tool, if I can find it somewhere around here. Just looks like your normal everyday USB. It can type at 1,000 words per minute, and it automatically starts injecting the script that you design either via a web interface. It's really simply done. You just create a notepad script and then upload it to the website, and you can have a script created for you. I'm going to show you a little demonstration. It's kind of just a proof of concept to show of what it can do. Oh, where's the USB port on this thing? Right there. So as with anything, it'll install the device software, and then you should see a command, or not a command prompt, excuse me, a run window come up that will start typing a web address to download a file. This file is just a picture for now, but it could be, let's say, a malicious file, a malicious executable, and when you download that executable, it could execute and infect the computer, and then in turn infect the whole network. Like I said, this is just proof of concept, so once it installs the device software, it should just kick off.
It was working on this one. I was gonna wait.
Maybe you have the laptop too well protected.
What's that?
Maybe you have the laptop too well protected.
No, it's not.
Mine never did it.
it goes. Okay, so now it's just connecting to, what's this? Let's see. Slide. While this is going, we can hop into the next slides, just so we're not waiting.
Okay,
Ben?
one of our last things that we're going to implement for a company I work for, I actually use it. It's called eBlaster by SpectreSoft. Like I said earlier, we had a couple students that actually work for this company going here to school. We're going to try to exploit social engineering again, distract them a little bit, get them outside the parking lot while he left his work laptop sitting in the room. Basically with this, we're going to install a software that takes less than 5 minutes to install with a few configurations to exclude it through your antivirus, through folder exclusions for when it scans. The software's on your computer. You put a relay email wherever you want it to go to monitor, which you can configure to be sending you reports every hour to every 8 hours. Basically what this does, and we have a little example here, anything you do on your computer, online chat or chatting, online websites, email, files, keystrokes, program activity, I don't need to go down the list. Basically, if you touch your computer, this software monitors, it reports it. I mean, for example, I use this with a couple of our clients that are not so good employees in their company. So we've been tasked to monitor basically what they do to restrict them. It can be used for a couple of things. Even when you look at the website, if you're ever interested, for watching, your children on what they do when they're at home, what sites they're going to. You can block sites, specific sites, things like that. One of the main things with it that we were going to try to use and implement, we didn't get it implemented, but it was something we thought would be interesting to you guys to present, is that it takes keystrokes. So you log into your bank account, it's going to show me logged into Bank of America. It's going to show me your username. Usually when you log into your bank account, if your computer's trusted, it'll ask you for your site key. That's quick and easy. If your computer's not trusted, you got to tell me, okay, when's your birthday or your favorite dog. That's going to track every single thing. So when you go born in San Leandro, boom, I see San Leandro underneath the question it asks you. I see your site key. I now have access to your Bank of America account. We don't use that, obviously, for those purposes, but we wanted to implement this on a laptop here of one of the employees of the client we were penetrating, because basically that would have gave us the credentials we needed to have full access to their network. We were running a little short on time. That idea came to us, I think, on our 8th week. Software was purchased. We just didn't get to implement it, but that would have been the granddaddy if we did. It didn't happen, but it's a very good tool. So any of you guys in the IT field ever working, if anybody ever asks you, hey, we want to monitor this person, we want something that sends reports without you having to do extensive research, SpectreSoft makes a good keylogger software. Okay, Raymond?
Right.
All right, so in the end, these are the discovered vulnerabilities that we found. For the physical security, big vulnerability was social engineering. Our recommendation for that was user awareness training. The benefit of that is increased physical security, and then also keeping your employees informed. The next one that we found was the site penetration. The recommendation is to create and upload policies to handle create or update policies to handle third-party vendors. The benefit is this is increased physical security by establishing stronger policies. We then moved on to the electronic security. As I mentioned to you guys earlier, we found an MTA Open Relay on their mail filtering server. We want them to change the server to authenticate their mail relays. That way, anonymous access isn't allowed. As you can see, benefits prevent spammers from using this server as a relay. In the end, you can actually end up getting blocked by an RBL list to keep spamming people. So they should change that to reduce it. The next one was 2 IPs that we found the OpenSSL Heartbleed on. The recommendation here is to upgrade the servers to OpenSSL 1.0.1G or later. And the benefit of that is to prevent malicious users from accessing memory from the server of the class. Next page. Now these are the internal vulnerabilities that we found. This is from our internal scans that we did. Default passwords for devices. Create and update a password policy. Change all your passwords. Never use a default password. Remote desktop protocol, man-in-the-middle attacks. We found that a couple of their RDP protocols do not actually have network level authentication checkmark on there. That allows man-in-the-middle attacks to happen. Essentially what a man-in-the-middle attack is you would actually be receiving all of the traffic going back and forth between the person trying to remote into the computer and the computer itself. So really you're in the middle, you're catching all the traffic, you get all the passwords, all that good stuff. Windows XP, we were suggesting that they move all of their clients off of Windows XP. Like I said, they're not patching it anymore. It's just going to be increased vulnerability down the road. The last one was we did find one computer that actually had their users folder still opened up. You didn't need credentials. That gave us access to all of their documents and all the public documents as well. Slide. Ben?
All right, what we learned, a lot. I don't even think I really need to look at this slide or go off this slide. As you can see, it's up here. You can see what we learned, but from my perspective on this group, we came together as a team, even through the hardest of times with your schedule, your schooling, your work, your family, your friends. We learned teamwork. Jacob learned to become a really good project manager. Really great job. I mean, we worked really hard together. We learned that through this school, you're not always going to get the devices that we spent time, money, effort putting together, learning through YouTube videos, research, basically stuff like the Raspberry Pi. You don't get those here. We purchased one, learned how to install Kali Linux on it, implant it in the device. I mean, it goes on and on. Documentation, put together a charter, communication with the client, going on site, planning, everything you guys get taught through all your classes here. Sometimes they don't seem like, you know, hey, why are we taking this class? But this class right here is where everything comes together. You go out there, you get a job, you go out there, you test a client, you got to take your project management classes, your writing classes, everything you've learned from your, you know, networking classes, hacking classes, all into this project. It takes a lot of hard work, a lot of dedication. You guys are going to be there soon, so when you are there, you know, obviously you see what we did. Take this with you, learn stuff. Is that everything? I mean, there's probably more, but I don't want to bore you guys, so next slide. Challenges, I think I went over that too. One of our biggest challenges, and it's for everybody here, time. You have people, like I said, that are working, that are in the field. You got to make your name known at your job. A lot of off hours, a lot of weekend work, trying to take the time from doing your work and not looking bad to your employer, as well as making time to do this. You're going to learn in the IT field that if you just put in your basic 8 hours and you go home and you do nothing, you're not going to get very far. It's going to take that dedication, that extra time to go home, do some research, put some stuff together, drink some coffee, stay up, get stuff done. Availability of time, group dynamics, I don't think was too much of a project challenge. A lot of it was coming together. Okay, when can you come on site? When can you be there? Coming together to make it happen for maybe people that couldn't learn as fast on a specific software installation, Kali Linux, that we bring. Meet me on site, we're going to go over it. So teamwork again was involved very well. We overcame you know, the obstacles that we were faced with. And I think that's about it. I mean, the project challenges, the main thing was time to spend on site. This is testing a client. You got to be on site. It's not just show up, look at the door, take a picture, and walk away. You're talking anywhere from 1 to 8 hours at a time. I mean, sitting next to the deli, drinking coffee all day, eating a donut. So, right? But it takes a lot of hard work. And I could say, all in all, out of this project, our team came together the hardest I've seen us work since we've been at the school, and here we are. We've got some stuff we presented you. Kali Linux was kind of a bum because we weren't able to get it working with the Wi-Fi. We are going to be getting it working before the end of the other presentation, so if any of you guys have any questions, want to see it live, obviously reach out to us. We'll show you. Next slide.
Wrong way.
We already read that. Yeah.
That's it. So, you know, we ended up asking if anyone wanted to hold the questions off until the end. Did anyone else have any further questions?
Can I state something here? So we have our instructors here that I'm very happy to have them in here. Thank you very much for coming in, Miss Murphy, Mr. Assad, and I have our beloved Spark in here, and thank you very much for coming in. So I would love to get a feedback from instructors. We have Carla over there. Carla, thank you for coming in. Director Woodman, we appreciate your presence. John, thanks for being with us. Yeah, so let's get a feedback from our instructors. They have been with you. They have taught you these stuff, get feedback, questions, and so on. And then we can open it up for everybody. Oh, Jacob is back there too. Thank you very much for coming in. And all the students who have spent time to coming in. So who wants to be the first to give the feedback? Ms. Murphy, ladies first.
I learned a lot. I don't really have any questions, but I was really impressed, and I'm not surprised. I've had all you guys in my classes before. They're all excellent students, and they've done a good job. I'm sure everybody learned a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's all students? I thought they were CIA.
Give it a couple more
Good
weeks,
job.
we would have been there.
Great job.
Yeah. So Dr. Assad.
Well, cannot add more, but I really impressed with the size of the work and with this time frame, really something good. I mean, from students, they have a lot of jobs and they have work to study, and at the same time they do the job, the project, which is something really good. So thank you for this great project.
Thank you. And Ms. Murphy. Mrs. Park.
Yeah, well, lots of familiar faces. You guys did a great job. I do actually have a project management question for you. And one of the challenges I see in a project like this is you do have tasks that you were saying take many hours. I mean, a lot of it's observation and waiting for something to happen. So I wanted to know if you could speak to the challenge of that. Like, because like you said, you don't have a lot of time, and yet you're having to spend hours doing this. How did you figure out that managing your time and figuring out, because you need, you might be out there and not get results. So how did you manage that, and like what lessons did you learn from that?
Basically, we started off with, and this is the honest thing that happened, is who can give up a weekend day to go over there and start testing? Project manager was the first one there. Through him showing up there, it was, okay, I'm done with work, I'm done with school homework, and we always talk, we talk every day, I think probably at least an hour a day. You get excited when you get there and you start seeing how Kali Linux is working, you're capturing packets. It's like, it's an adrenaline rush. It's like, oh, we're gonna get it, we're gonna get it. Next thing you know, 5 hours went by. So, in all honesty, sitting in your car, like I did too when I went on site, we all basically would communicate through email. Email, if you weren't reached by email, text, or phone. So 3 ways to contact each other. And it was basically, I'm not gonna be able to make it this weekend, maybe you had a family event. Us two are gonna pick it up, we're gonna go out there, we're gonna run, try to capture, see what we can do, go in, day passes, walk through, fake work orders. So we all were in communication and kind of, it wasn't really decided. It's that, okay, you're free, let's get you out there. And then once you started spending more time on it, it wasn't a, I don't want to go. It's like, I want to go. We want to see what else we can get. So it was rewarding because every time we got something, it was like success. And it kept you wanting to go back more and more. So it wasn't really an organizational thing. It was just a happening of all of us are very motivated individuals, and where one was slacking on time because maybe work, the other would fall in, take care of it, and
Well, it sounded
yeah,
like you
do
made
what
the
we
best use of each other's time. So
Yeah.
it was realizing you just had to keep the ball rolling. But I definitely compliment you on your teamwork to do that, because it is
Yeah.
a difficult thing to do. Because if you hadn't done that, you wouldn't have these results. So.
Correct. Yeah, teamwork was the biggest thing in play.
he really had a whip out.
Yeah, if you
I don't want to tell you that.
And it was
All
good
right,
because
Jacob, I
everyone
taught
jumped
you
in.
well.
That's one thing I can say is pay attention to your project management class.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah, it will come in handy.
Yeah. Most of your core classes will come from.
Any other questions from the audience?
Yeah, so you said you hacked the Wi-Fi, right? I was just wondering what the encryption was.
Actually, okay, so when it came down, you want to talk about Wi-Fi?
WPA2 PSK.
With the PSK?
It's PSK.
You go into Kali Linux a little
Actually,
bit.
since the password is changed, you can tell them what's the password.
The password has been changed?
Yeah, it's changed. I just
Okay,
talked
so
to
the
them.
password was a simple development with
Three's for ease.
Yeah, 3's for ease. Simple as that. The D was capitalized in
But
development.
simple, okay, so with Kali Linux, and maybe if we can get this up and running, or at some point,
It'd be off. It kicked his Wi-Fi down.
we captured the packet, he captured, okay, the handshake actually, captured the handshake.
How many packets? Dude, the cat file. So Aircrack will create 3 files, or
3 seconds.
3 files.
Yeah, 3.
3 files. 2 for Kismet, 1 for Wireshark. The Wireshark, it was about a.
Convert it into a different file format.
Was that?
You convert it into like a different file format?
No.
No, it works right in hand with Wireshark, and you just end up double clicking, and Wireshark comes up, and you're able to read the packets to pull.
So when you do open up Wireshark, there's one specific protocol you would like to look for. It's EAPOL, Extensible Authentication Protocol over LAN. This protocol will contain the handshake. So that's what you'll look for inside Wireshark. You'll filter the traffic for that specific protocol, and inside that protocol, that's how you know that you've successfully captured a key. So then you'll take that cat file from Wireshark and run it against a corresponding word list via a program in Aircrack, or Aircrack, yeah. Yeah. So,
But just to show you is, we
Just to-
downloaded 160 gig word list. Not one word list that's 160 gigs, but multiple millions of little ones.
and I went there plenty of times. I mean, I can't tell me how many times I called these guys after sitting there for 5 hours. Hey, dude, I sat there 5 hours. I didn't get anything. He goes there for 20 minutes. Hey, I cracked the password.
So
So,
it's
I
just a
mean, it's
matter
really
on
just.
It's hit or miss on those
Yeah.
things, you know, and being in a place of where you're hacking, I mean, you gotta be patient.
Yeah.
You know, you have to wait, and wait.
No, you said that the implant got found after 5 days. Did they physically see it, or was it something they saw on the network?
No, they physically saw it. They were having issues on site, so they dispatched one of their guys out there to check it out. And I mean, when they went in to actually plan it, things were so tight they couldn't get it on the rack, so they had to set it off to the side.
Okay.
Any IT that walks into their server room is gonna look around, you know. But point of concept, like he was saying, yeah, point of concept, like he was saying, is that you shouldn't allow somebody close enough to your server room to put a device. I mean, that's
We were left unattended when we went in there. So the maintenance guy walked us back there and said, you guys are okay with what you're doing? Said, sure are. Said, okay, walked out of the room, and he went about his business, and we were in the.
And so your second way of the hack, you use laptops remotely, right, to get into there?
Well, no, there's a laptop that's actually at the facility now.
Let's say they found it. Would they be able to trace your IP address and find out it was your computer?
Technically, yes.
Yeah.
If they'd have to go through all the TeamViewer logs to find out what was connecting. Depends on what kind of IT administrator you have. If they want to either take the time to do it or just remove the device and say.
If they can see, they would be able to trace.
Technically, they can.
Yeah.
Yes.
In all honesty, though, we had, I mean, basically, we walked into the front door with a piece of paper stating, this is what we're doing, we're here to pick up our device. I said, here you go. So, same thing with the laptop, but I see what you're trying to say. You're trying to become a hacker, huh?
That's all part of the cybersecurity, you know, being a good hacker.
That is true.
I'm
That is true.
definitely one of ethical hackers. Last couple of weeks I've been doing my own little research, so it's kind of crazy. I was like, hey, it's probably gonna be on hacking.
So on your handout, will it have like some of these details that we're talking about?
No, not for the general public. That will all be given to our client. We can give you the slides.
No, blacklisting, of course, I mean, that type of stuff.
You can
but-
Google, you can just do simple Google research like we do. Aircrack, Google Aircrack, tons of
Okay,
free
I got
newbie
those
guys.
here.
Okay, there you go.
You
I
go
really
there?
don't want to give you any tools because I mean it's all readily
Student.
available to you.
Google search.
Yeah.
Yeah, by the way, when you guys be in your bachelor program, there is a class called Hacking and Countermeasures. I usually am doing my best to turn it into a Kali Linux class depending on the students, because the curricula is not exactly like that, but what we do, we teach Linux and how to hack into the systems. A lot of details here on this project were not spoken because we didn't want you guys to be bored about it, like how to key in the commands and so on. So wait for that.
Backtrack is no more. Kali is backtrack.
Yeah, Kali is backtrack.
Oh, Cali is, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Everything's more automated with Kali. With Backtrack, you have to start processes, but Kali Linux, it all does it automatically.
Now, and for our final documentation, really what we were providing for our final documentation is just a vulnerability assessment. So really all we're doing is tell them how we got onto the system, what vulnerabilities they found, and what our recommendations are that they
That
fix
should
it.
implement, sure.
Exactly. So we don't go into detail to them on how we actually cracked their Wi-Fi password. We're just telling them, we cracked it, you need to have better security.
Yeah.
So that's why we don't go into
And
detail.
what the package.
Yeah.
Would you have recommended to the IT director to look for the hacker? Would have been a recommendation?
If you hadn't hired us if you were a client and you hadn't hired us, yeah, I mean,
I think if you
go
see
back
an
and you try and get it.
unknown car inside your parking lot or something, that's enough to raise a flag.
No, I was inside, me and him were sitting door to door inside the parking lot, windows down. Hey, what are you doing over there? Just doing this command, we're trying to do this. And we had workers walk by us, didn't even say a thing to us.
That's what
I
mean.
parked right outside the hotel door,
See,
and
that's
I
what I
had
mean.
I had parking enforcement pass me 4 different times, and then finally they started getting suspicious because I was just on a laptop,
Yeah.
and it was on my steering wheel, so I was just hanging out.
That's why
And
you
they
gotta get 'em hands.
kept driving by. I'm like, am I in the
Exactly.
wrong? Am I in the wrong? The next thing you know, there was a PD that pulled up, and he just looked at me, and I said, I'm just working on schoolwork.
Yeah, free Wi-Fi.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they are in a very public facility, very public place, so it was actually easy for us.
Now, did you go
really
to
get
every
by.
site, or were you able to hack it from one site?
We did. We actually during our reconnaissance we hit up every site to find out which one was the best one for us.
Any more questions?
Correct, because it would be a lot more noticeable.
Thank you.